the production company said, hey, we need to do a town hall. We need to film some content. Do you think you can get 30 or 40 people in the room? And I said, if y'all knew how much South Carolinians love Tim Scott, you would know how easy that would be. I mean, look around you. This is incredible. And guys, it's not lost on us. This is a Sunday afternoon in Charleston in springtime. There are a handful of other places you could be, a handful of other things you could be doing. So on behalf of Senator Scott and Team Scott, thank you for being here. I'm going to introduce Mikey Johnson, who's going to introduce the Senator. Mikey is our National Finance Co-Chair, a dear, dear friend who I've come to love and respect. Mikey, come on up and introduce Tim. Thank you, my friend.
All right. Hey, Miss Francis, we're glad you're here. Good to see you. Welcome, everybody, and thanks for being here. Beautiful Meeting Street Academy. This place is amazing. It's just spectacular, and it couldn't be a more fitting place, I think, to have a town hall. So much fun to be here. Just a few things I want to say about Tim Scott. A few weeks ago, we were together, and we were having a conversation about the people that had made this possible for him, his mentors, the people that had touched him along the way, in addition to Mom, who had to touch him a few more times, as he likes to tell the story. But so many people had an influence in his life, and it immediately made me think, particularly being here in this place of learning, where probably so many people are touching our young people's lives. So I brought up my son, Kazi. He's a fourth grader. We live in Columbia, but I think about, I don't get to touch him too much. He doesn't get too much trouble, so he's a well-behaved one, but how he impacts our life and how that relationship is so mutual and how we gain so much working with one another. But I think about that old proverb about it takes a village. Well, this is the village of Tim Scott, right? South Carolina, this is the village of South Carolina, and how we're going to play a part in all that he does and whatever the future holds for him. We couldn't be more excited. It is an honor and a privilege to work with him on this next step. It's exciting to have everyone here today. He's your thrice elected U.S. Senator. Since 2013, he's been serving us and our nation dutifully, passing legislation, working from both sides, which is not common in today's world. I think there's a hunger for somebody and some person to do it differently, to bring people together. I think that's why people, Joe, turn out on a Sunday, because they know this guy is going to do it differently and do it right. So Kazi had something he wanted to say.
Senator Tim Scott is the best.
Raise the voice for Senator Tim Scott. Kazi, you did a fantastic job. Your mom and dad must be doing a really good job. Right? He's like, I don't really know. It sounds kind of good. Well, thank you, Mikey, for driving down and being a part of the team. Thank you, Cindy, for y'all's commitment for a long time. It is always so good to come home. I tell you what, you see so many faces that you have known for a long time. I'm thankful to be here, and certainly always thankful to be in the house of my mom. God bless Francis Scott. She just celebrated 50 years at the same job. 50 years. And I'm hoping she will retire sometime soon. I will say that I believe that with a strong foundation, all things are truly possible. And I had a really strong foundation starting with my mom. I'll tell you, you guys have heard the story several times, so I won't give you the whole story, but the long story short is sometimes you got to love your children differently. And my brother was such a perfect kid. Perfect kid. Ended up being a command sergeant major in the Army, and he did everything right. I was the other kid. I needed a little extra love. I said a switch is a Southern apparatus of encouragement, and she applied it generously when necessary. But I will say that one of the things that excites me about where we are today in this building, having this conversation, is because I believe that America can do for anyone what she has done for me. That our goal is to restore hope, create opportunities, and protect America. And if we do those three things, the greatest century of America, driven by the strongest, most powerful, positive people on earth, will be the next American century. And for us to see that happen, we have work to do in Washington, D.C. We need more decisions made at home than we do in D.C. Can I get an amen? I'm telling you the truth. Let's see out here. Got any questions? And if you want to define a way to truly attack the greatest nation on earth, you would create, as it seems the radical left has, a blueprint on how to ruin America. And you would start with our patriotism. You would say that America is an evil country. You would try to cancel our founding fathers. But we believe and know that America and our foundation should be celebrated, not canceled. That we are the land of opportunity and not the land of oppression. We know it because we live it. That is the beauty of the American dream that is unique to each and every one of us. And we get to choose the way we live, where we live, how we live, and whom we love. It's a wonderful, wonderful journey that we all are on. Our goal should be make sure that we protect this amazing journey, the American dream, for the next generation of Americans that we may never meet. But it is our responsibility to stop the radical left from destroying the very foundation on which we stand. I think about that blueprint to ruin America. And it certainly would go towards our education system, where today it seems like too often our kids are being indoctrinated and not educated. It is time for a change. We need school choice in the hands of every single parent in the nation. We need parents deciding where their kids go to school. If a parent has a choice, the kids have a chance. I believe that if we look at that blueprint for how to ruin America, the next step it goes towards is the economy. Print and spend $4 or $5 trillion, leading to inflation so high it rivals the Carter years. Anybody here old enough to remember the Carter years? For those of y'all too young to remember the Carter years, when the people next to you say, it ain't a good sign, okay? It ain't a good sign. That's exactly what happened. Inflation hit 9.1%. Devastating. That means for single moms like the one that raised me, seniors on fixed incomes, it means devastation. It's hard to make your ends meet when month after month your spending power starts to drop. We have to turn the spigot off and stop spending money we don't have, trying to impress people that are not impressed anywhere in the world. Finally, if you wanted to create a blueprint on how to ruin America, you would leave our borders insecure, unsafe, and wide open, contributing to the deaths of more than 70,000 Americans because of fentanyl coming across our border. It is time for us to close our southern border. If you don't control your back door, you don't control your house. We gotta close the back door, and then we'll have a chance to stop 6 million illegal crossings. That's what we have to do. And the good news is hope is right around the corner. A new American sunrise, brighter than the ones before, is within our reach. We should do what we did from 2017 to 2020 when we were in charge, when the Republican Party, the great opportunity party, was in charge of the country. We brought the greatest economy in the history of this nation to the American people. It led to the lowest unemployment rates for women, World War II, 70-year low for African Americans, first time under 6%, historic low for Hispanics, first time under 5%, and historic low for Asians, first time under 3%, and historic low. We did all of that, and more money went to the federal treasury with lower taxes. In 2018, taxes revenue went up by 3%. 2019, they went up again because the Laffer curve that says the lower the taxes, the higher the revenues, it actually works. The Biden administration thinks if we take more of your money, the revenue goes up. It just ain't so. Now I know ain't a word, but it's just not so. There is an easy path for the land of opportunity to get on our feet. You see, some will tell you that America is in decline. We are not. America, because of our radical left in this country and the failed leadership of Joe Biden, we are in retreat. All you have to do is turn around, have a little backbone, and the future becomes clear and it becomes positive, because we are indeed exceptional. I believe there's nothing wrong with the American people. We just need a new American government to unleash the American spirit. God bless you. Now, I believe this so thoroughly that it is time to take the Faith in America tour, not just on the road, not just to an exploratory committee, but on May the 22nd in North Charleston, South Carolina. It is time to make the final step. Please tell your friends, be in attendance. North Charleston, more details coming your way. We will have a major announcement and you're going to want to be there. It's time to restore hope in America. Time to restore the greatest nation in God's green earth. It is time to get the job done, protect America, set our people free. Let's do it together. Rise up and defend the greatest nation on God's green earth. God bless you. Thank you. All right. I would love to take a few minutes and answer some questions. And I got a little excited there, Joe. Sorry. Got a little excited. I thought I was back in my football days. Why are you apologizing?
I was so excited, I neglected to ask you guys to turn your phones on non-audible, so check your phones real quick. Raise your hand if you have a question for the senator. We're going to pass the microphone around. Jerry.
Thank you, Tim. I've had a unique experience this past year. I met with the Secretary of the Navy, and one of the questions he was asking is, why can't we get more recruits? Why can't we keep people in? And just now, over Easter, I happened to meet with some young people that were in the military, and I asked them, oh, this is really great. How long have you been in? I've been in 4 years. I'm 22. I said, you going to stick with it? No. Why not? Because I didn't join the military to be told what I should believe. It's too woke. The people that I'm being trained over CRT, DEI, that's not what I joined the military for, and it's weakening our young people. So there's a definite gap between our leadership and between the people that are serving on why that's. So my question to you is, should the military be a social experiment? Thank you, Joe, for such a powerful, important question. The answer is a simple no. The one thing we know about America's military is it is not the place for social experimentation, period. What we do know is because it should be the most lethal fighting machine on God's green earth. That requires focus. And the one thing we're seeing today is a lot of the leadership is just distracted. When you have to focus on ESG, DEI, it leads to leaks. And we're seeing them. It leads to folks who are just not sure what to do next. As a man who dedicated your life to this country, thank you for putting on the uniform and going to places in order to make sure that we remained the most secure and free people on earth. It's that kind of sacrifice that means we have to have a laser focus to make sure that you and all your comrades, every single person who joins our military, knows that we have one purpose. And when we have multiple priorities, you have no priorities. And we cannot experiment with our military. Number one. Number two, we have to honor our commitment to the men and women in uniform when they're serving and when they're done. Our job isn't finished when their job is. We have a responsibility to take care of our veterans. South Carolina is a state with a rich heritage of having the folks who retire descend upon this great state. Because we love our veterans, but we have to walk the talk, not just talk it. And it's time for us to do so, and I say two more things on that. Number one, we need to increase our military spending, period. If we can't fight 3 conflicts on 3 different continents at the exact same time, we are not prepared for a future that might unfold. You think about Putin in Ukraine. You think about China. When someone puts a sign in your face, you should read it. And China's putting a sign in our face, and they're telling us that they are in a cold war with us, whether we are participating or not. We have to be prepared for conflict. And in the Middle East, as the Iranians become closer and closer to the advanced centrifuges that allows them to accelerate towards a nuclear weapon. There's a country in the Middle East, by the way, called Israel. And their motto is never again. And they mean that. So whatever it takes is what they are prepared to do. The question is, do we support our allies? If our allies are questioning us, that tells us that our military activity and our responsiveness isn't where it needs to be because our leaders, Commander-in-Chief specifically, failing the most important job of the federal government. It is national security. Thank you for the question.
Hi, Senator Scott. I have a 2-part question. What do you think the victim culture is doing to our country, and how do we fix it?
Thank you very much. That's a great and powerful question. The one thing about our culture today is that the victim culture, I like to say in my speeches that the drug of victimhood and the narcotic of despair are ravishing our community, and it's manifesting in a lot of different ways. We can look at the mental health crisis that we have in our country. We can look at the overdoses in our country. There's a lot of signs. When you have a culture of grievance, it's like having a culture of quicksand that just pulls you in. It lowers your expectations, lowers your productivity, and it is a stain on the soul of our country. We have to start teaching what my mama taught me, the necessity of individual responsibility, that we are personally responsible for our decisions. And as a result of that, we either win or sometimes we lose. You have to have both to have a flourishing society. You don't get to fix the game. And unfortunately, in the victim mentality, there are no losers. Everybody gets a trophy. I played on a lot of teams, and everybody does not get a trophy. It ought not be. And today's kids are growing up immersed in a culture where everyone's a victim. That's not good for our soul. So we have to return personal responsibility. So one of the reasons why I say, if you are able-bodied, you work. It's a simple American philosophy. So if you take out a loan, you pay it back. And if you commit a violent crime, you go to jail. If we took that seriously, we'd have a completely different America. And the good news is we're going to take it seriously, and we're going to have a very different America. Thank you very much. Next question.
Start with, I'd just like to say thanks for being the man you are to stand up there and take questions versus running from questions. And I just feel like the values I was raised on and taught and brought up on, my Christian beliefs, also the views that I have of life are currently under attack. And I wanted to ask if you feel the same way.
Without question, there is an absolute assault on the Judeo-Christian foundation that this nation was based on, founded upon, that we are looking for ways to cancel our founding fathers. I think we should celebrate our founding fathers. Not because they were perfect, but thank God we evolved as a nation. But they decided that more important were the documents that embedded the code of America, to include our Declaration, not just our Constitution, but our Declaration of Independence that reflects our birth certificate. That all of us have intrinsic value. That we have inalienable rights that don't come from your government. It doesn't come from each other. It comes from our Creator. And of those rights are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. John Adams said it well. This experiment in self-governance doesn't work if you're a moral, and a religious people. The assault on our value system is best understood, in my opinion, by this notion of your truth and my truth ain't true. You may have an experience, and I may have an experience, but there is one truth, one objective truth. Without a society that understands and embraces the concept of one truth, you have chaos. Chaos spawns fear. Fear allows for division. Division means that we all lose. So getting back to respecting our Judeo-Christian foundation, appreciating the history even when it's painful, but understanding as MLK said, the arc of the universe bends towards justice. And there's not a better example of that, just America, than the progress we've made in the last 50 years. We are a remarkable people because we look in the mirror and take responsibility, because we decide that the sins of the past don't define us. That the story of America is not the story of our original sin, but the story of America is the story of redemption. That's the values I'm willing to defend every single day, everywhere I go, and to do it from the mountaintop or in the valley.
Senator Scott, as we see the Washington mainstream media, we see that the Democrats are always trying to come after you. Why do you think that the radical liberal Democrats fear you and fear what you can bring to this country?
Well, sir, thank you for your question, and thank you for the hat you wear, which tells me that you served our country. God bless your willingness to put your life on the line as well. God bless you, sir. I honestly think that the liberal left and the Biden team fears an African-American conservative Republican about as much as they fear anything else. I thought it was just because I was bald. That's not the case. I thought it was funny too. Thank you very much. Here's the truth. My life disproves their lies. People tell our kids today that if you're a white kid, you're an oppressor. And if you're a black kid, you're oppressed. That's a lie. We live in the fairest, freest land on God's green earth. We have made so much progress that we don't even have time to celebrate it. But there are those forces who want us to question the very look of a man. That's a 1920s approach. But the goal is not simply to silence minority conservatives. The actual goal is to use race as a weapon, weaponize race to keep the control and the power over the people. That's the goal. They will use whatever tool they have in the toolbox to make sure that they maintain control. And if we're afraid of each other, they control. It's a simple game of division. It's been played for the entire course of history. Not American history, but in human history. This is one of the few countries on earth that has stood up and had a battle for the freedom of all people. The story of 3,000 years of history tells us that slavery, as evil as it is as common in all of history. What is rare is a country that stands up and says, enough. It is wrong, it is evil, it must end. America is one of the few examples on earth of a country that stands up and says, with the price of 700,000 men, we are setting all captives free. Do your own homework. You won't find this story repeated in very many places. So when you have people who stand up and have lived on both sides of the track, I wasn't born with a silver spoon, mine was plastic. When you have an opportunity to tell the whole story of America, we can be proud of who we are. We can stand strong and tall and speak to anybody on the earth about American exceptionalism because it's real, and we can measure it by the number of lives that have been changed by who we are as a people. Next question.
Thank you, Senator. I helped start a school in Charleston, and we so appreciate that you rightly focus on the importance of education. And today it seems like schools are more interested in indoctrinating our children and instilling liberal values in them instead of giving them an excellent education. What could you do about that?
Well, thank you for the question. One of the first things, thank you for the effort, by the way. Starting a school is no joke. We got legislators right here on the front row who love education as much as I do, but I will say without any question, the extra effort to get it done takes a steel will and a focus because you love the kids, you love their future, even if you don't meet them all. And that's the kind of exceptionalism that makes me proud to be an American. And one of the things that we should do as it relates to our education system is to provide school choice for every single parent in this nation. They need to make the right decisions for their kids. Second thing we need to do is stop the momentum around the CRT and get back to the ABC. We're not doing the basics yet. I also suggest that we go from indoctrinating our kids to educating our kids. We need to teach our kids how to think, not what to think. And I think it's okay to disagree. I actually think that disagreement can be healthy. But if you don't have critical thinking skills, you just adopt the philosophy in the current environment, even if it's not anchored in historical evidence. If all we go on is current events, it's going to be hard to maintain momentum towards another American century. That takes real work. And critical thinking is real work. So I hope that we, particularly if I have a chance to make those decisions for us, we're going to have school choice. We're going to take our Title I dollars and our Title II dollars. Title I is for the poorest zip codes in America. Title II is for our kids with special needs. No Americans left behind. We're going to make sure that the starting line is the same, and you determine how far you go and how fast you get there. But education is a necessity for that to happen.
Rick and Senator, not so long ago, when people had disagreements about politics, the discussion and conversations were still generally civil and even polite at times, but now it appears as though civility and politeness have vanished from the public dialogue. And even there's a very troubling number of Americans who no longer respect our country and our basic values. I wonder if you care to comment about that.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your service too. I know Dave very well. I would say without a question that our country is in an identity quandary. We're trying to figure out whether we are truly an evil country or are we a land of opportunity. Are we a land of oppression? Are we so anchored in grievance and challenges and frustration that we simply don't think we just reflexively respond to the challenges at hand without any perspective? I think we have to do better because we can and we have. And part of getting better is to learn to disagree without being disagreeable. There are families today that don't get together for Thanksgiving anymore. Two things you can't talk about: politics and religion. I'm talking about both. We have to be able to respect differences in opinion and learn to listen. Not wait for our chance to speak, to actually listen to the person who is talking. Think about what they're saying. People disagree with me all the time. And I appreciate that. I would say, as an African-American Republican, also known as a unicorn, one of the things you learn in life is that sometimes your family and friends don't agree with everything you say. But you learn to have that debate over the issues. But as long as we're indoctrinating our kids, as long as we're telling our kids we are an evil country, it's hard to get to solid ground. Very hard to get there. It's one of the reasons why I am so excited to tell the whole story of who we are as a nation. We are a very good nation. And you won't hear that enough. Because when you watch most of the news, monetizing conflict is very lucrative. Monetizing conflict is very lucrative. They make a lot of money off of making sure that there's divisions in our country. Thank you.
Tim, thank you for your willingness to lead our nation. And before I go a step further, being a Roper guy, Francis, thanks for 50 years. Service to community, service to nation. I know the gym is full of veterans, no question about it. And we all probably have legacy kids and grandkids serving right now. What I'm really worried about is them being unnecessarily sent into harm's way. China, we've already mentioned it, a threat, a threat, a threat. Our national fuel reserves are gone for political reasons. Our ammunition stockpiles are depleted, hopefully for the betterment of Ukraine's situation. Not sure, another prolonged war. Our youngsters in the service, not in the service, there's only 6% proclivity to serve our nation. And what's worse than that, it's 6% of 20% who are qualified. China. What can we do about it? Quickly?
Yes, sir.
You as Commander-in-Chief?
Thank you, sir. Go for it. Appreciate it. Thank you. The short answer is a lot. You start with making sure that we have the most powerful economy on the face of the planet. We need to make sure that we figure out how to unscramble the egg. Today we are so dependent on China for our necessities that we are beholden to them. There's an old scripture, Proverbs 22:7, that says, the borrower is slave to the lender. That's not just in finance. When you need critical minerals, when you need your generic medicine and you're waiting for 87% of the things that you need to come from somewhere else, about a fourth of that 87% comes from China. We need to take them up the world. They are in a Cold War with us. We need to react to the Cold War with a Cold War from my perspective. First thing we have to do. God bless you. Second thing we have to do is make sure that we have the fiercest fighting force on earth with the best equipment, the best training, and a clear understanding of America's vital national interest. We cannot be a global police force, but we can be always in defense of the American people, domestic or abroad. We have to rebuild our military. We have to refocus, get rid of all the, as Jerry asked earlier, get rid of the social experimentation, use our resources to improve the quality of our recruits as well. Recruiting is down because social experimentation is up, be it the vaccine mandate to ESG, DEI, and ABC. This is all that, not the ABC in education, but different ABC. So literally we have a lot of work to do there. I think we win, by the way. Our philosophy always succeeds if we believe in it. And what we haven't seen is a strong president who believes in America. I believe that the weakness of the American president is more important than the strength of the Chinese economy or government. Major problem. So, a few things that I would say on the China front. Number one, you got to think through their Made in 2025 objective, which really means that they want to become independent from the world and specifically from any resourcing coming from us. Number two, their Belt and Road project that actually sinks foreign countries into so much debt that they're beholden to the Chinese government. This is a powerful way of seducing those who need help into being on your side. You watch China, the new axis of evil is rising. You see China working with Putin and working with Iran. We have to step back up in powerful form of leading this world from home. And we're not doing that. We're not seeing that. You go from the Wuhan lab to TikTok and Huawei. We have to be really willing to carve them out of the American economy step by step by step, and then have the most powerful kinetic option on the table. We should teach people that we are loyal to our allies, but we are lethal to our enemies. Next question. Yes.
security?
Yes.
The senator was just talking about, we've got Chinese flooding across our zone.
Absolutely. Yeah.
We're reporting to those police stations.
Absolutely.
Through their borders.
Yes.
They speak English better than most of us.
Yes, sir.
They're right.
Yes.
What do we do about it?
We have the closest southern border. So it is just close the southern border. This question is part two of the question really reflects the importance of understanding that border security is national security. If you miss that, you miss the entire story. More than 155 countries are represented at our southern border. It's not Latin America that's just leading the way. We have Chinese nationals showing up at our southern border. Because the story is out. If you get there, you have a better chance of getting in quick, fast, and in a hurry. And so if you don't get control of your southern border, you cannot protect the American people. And that is one of the things that we just have to do. It's job one.
They're being handpicked and sent there.
And we also have to have the conversation about the illegal Chinese police stations in a few of our states that literally are surveilling Chinese folks here. But this is a toxic, corrosive situation within our borders. And as a man who served our nation for 31 years, we understand this. So we have to do that seriously. Before I hear from you, our state senator, before we hear from you, I want to just ask every veteran in this room to stand up. When the family serves, the family serves as well. We don't spend enough time thanking our veterans. 2 words. We had an event in 2015 in Colombia where we did a Vietnam veterans event. 2014, there were about 2,500 people there. And for hundreds of veterans, they said it was the first time they had been thanked. Tears running down their cheeks for 2 simple words. Thank you. Thank you. Let us not forget that we are having this conversation today paid for by a very high price of blood, broken hearts, and lost lives. Because Americans do what very few people do. They put themselves in harm's way for people they will never meet. It is part of why I can stand with great confidence and talk about American exceptionalism. We can have the conversation about the problems in this country. Because every single decade, every generation, someone stands up, and typically it's millions of ordinary, everyday people who say, put me in, coach. Whatever the price, even if it's my life, put you in. Let's not forget what we're actually talking about is making sure that every single family, Gold Star family, every veteran wounded in a conflict, physical or PTSD, that we are going to honor our commitment because it's who we are. They deserve it. And you can count on me to deliver it.
Thank you, Senator, for coming out.
My beautiful wife and I, we have 4 young adults, and 3 of them have already started their families. My mom was recently widowed in December, and the struggle right now is the interest rates and the inflation that's going up that's impacting them. How can you fix that?
Thank you very much, Brad, for the question. I would say very quickly, the answer is a simple one. You just don't spend money you don't have. Buying things you don't need. Trying to impress a world that's obviously unimpressed. Step 1, turn the spigot off. We are dealing with high interest rates as a result of President Biden printing and spending trillions of dollars, which led to the 9.1% interest rate that I talked about earlier. But it wasn't just 1 month of high inflation, 9.1 inflation rate. It wasn't just 1 month of high inflation. It's been nearly 2 years of really high inflation, leading to gas is up 40%, food is up over 20%, electricity is up over 20%. I'm so sorry that you lost your husband. December was not that long ago. I can't even imagine. How long were y'all married? Losing your loved one at 62 years. Well, part of the thing I think people miss sometimes is that when we talk about the numbers of inflation, the 9.1% of inflation, or we talk about single moms like the one that raised me, struggling to make the ends meet, I think sometimes we forget to put a face on the numbers. Here we have someone 62 years of holy matrimony, having to think through decisions about economics. America is struggling because the powers that be forget that we are talking about everyday individuals who have really hard lives, hard decisions. We have a couple here getting ready to have a kid in July. I mean, expanding the family with inflation so high that 18 months ago, if you bought a home 18 months ago, your home payment, your mortgage payment would be half of what it is today because of inflation, and because inflation led to interest rates. So because your inflation is high, your interest rates go higher to put downward pressure on your economy. Well, downward pressure means your spending power goes through the floor. That's the definition of downward pressure. That's the combination that happens when you have someone in charge who doesn't understand basic math. I'm sorry for your loss, but we can turn the spending off, which will bring the inflation down faster. And then we can cut the taxes that they raised through their fascinating title, Inflation Reduction Act. Let us pray. Lord, help them with English definitions specifically. When it causes inflation to go up, it's not a reduction. Even I know that, okay? Literally. And so if you raise taxes, if we cut taxes back to where they were just a few years ago, we can put $4,000 back in the pockets like we did just a few years ago, so that you get to make your decisions on how to support your household and not expect the government to figure it out for you. Most of us do not want the government figuring it out for us. How many of you have so much confidence in the federal government, you just want to give them all your money? And if you're here, you're in the wrong gymnasium. That's the dinner grandmother. I'm just not joking. I'm not joking. Anyways, all right, I am joking.
Thank you. As always, thank you for the vision that you're able to cast. On the other hand, President Joe Biden and his agenda and so many socialist policies seem to be undermining work ethic. Businesses are still having trouble finding people to work for them. How do we get past that?
That's a great question. Thank you. Thank you for being here as well. Good question. Yeah. I honestly think that the answer is very simple. You follow my mama. She works 16 hours a day, as a nurse's aide, changing bedpans and rolling patients to put food on the table as often as possible, keep the lights on. There is dignity in all work. If you can, you must. It is a part of the ethos of who we are. If you cannot, then we should be in a different position to be helpful. And here's the interesting part, by the way. This is not a Republican or Democrat issue. The radical left oftentimes finds themselves in a position that the folks who are center-left are shaking their heads too. And most of the things that we're talking about today, I believe this is a left and right conversation. That most common sense Americans think if you are able-bodied, you work. I don't think that's just a Republican thing. I think that's the American value system. But there's a radical left that has co-opted and taken over. And everyone else has to be quiet or they are canceled. It's dangerous when you don't have a public forum that allows for conversations to be had, to debate the issues in a civil public forum so that we get better answers. We're not able to debate the most important decisions of the future if we don't have a civil society where we can debate fundamental truths and then where those truths lead us. Absolutely essential. But follow Francis Scott. If you can work, go to work. It helps a lot. Next question. Talking about that, Mama.
I know. So clearly, yes, pregnant. She's coming quick. My husband and I are having a little girl. Her name's going to be Claire.
You should see his face.
I know. Is he nervous?
Oh, he's nervous and happy.
So we've talked a lot about this, but I would love to think that she could grow up and play high school and college sports without the fear of having to compete against a biological male. So let us know your thoughts on that.
Absolutely. Transgender ideology is ruining women's sports. You can't tell now, but about 20 pounds ago, I was a college football player. I can't think of anything more unfair than for the strength that comes with being a male, honed in gyms, to then walk onto a field or into a swimming competition and to compete against women. It's fundamentally unfair. It is wrong. And there's no other way to put it. About 6 months ago, we had a remarkable swimmer from Alabama come into the Senate lunch. And she had been training for her entire life to be the best she could be. And a biological male got into the competition and beat her by several meters. And she was so dejected. She said, it's not fair. I mean, for those who believe in protecting fairness in America, let's start with women's sports. Let's make sure that women compete against women. That's just called common sense.
We have time for one more question. And guys, who likes Trey Gowdy? The senator is going to be on Trey Gowdy's show tonight. So after he answers this last question, we got to get him to the studio, so he can't hang around too long. I'm sorry. So we'll take one more question here. So tune in to Trey Gowdy tonight. You raise your hand.
Senator Scott, thank you so much for your vision and your service, and also your mom's contributions to our community. Thank you. I
I honestly don't think our nation can take 4 more years of a Biden administration or even a Democrat administration. Heaven forbid. If we have to endure that, what do we do?
Well, we win, number one. We can't, it's going to be hard to take 2 more years of it. I can't even think about 6. That can't be a possibility. Let me close with this as an example of why the Biden administration, I used to sing the song when I was a kid. That was back in 2011 when I was a member of Congress. Hit the road, Jack, and don't you come back no more, right? Saying that to Joe Biden now. So let me tell you about that. It's really important. Literally this past Thursday, we had a hearing. I'm the leading Republican on the banking committees in the United States Senate. We had a hearing about reducing the importance of credit scores. So if you're a person who's responsible and you pay your bills on time, we're going to increase your interest rates for those who don't pay their bills on time. And the Biden administration, led by the FHFA and Director Harrison, whatever his name is making a new rule that will take your interest rates of 700 Beacon score or higher, make your rates higher so the person who doesn't qualify for a loan gets the loan anyways. So this is example 1. Example 2 would be, let's just get rid of SAT scores because they're discriminatory. This is the administration that allowed for $1 billion to go to the Smithsonian to teach. My mom was going to be shocked. That hard work is whiteness. Mama? You can tell me that. She taught me to get my hind parts up and go to work. I was 13, 14, 15 years old. There's a delusion in this administration that they believe that the way you cure problems is to create more problems, and the way to create more solutions that you create credit for to solve those problems that you created. And that's exactly what's happening. So 2 more years is going to be hard as a Dickens to suffer through. 6 years. Somebody give me a seat. Lord have mercy. Can't do it. No way. No how. That's why on May 22nd, you should be in North Charleston talking about solutions. God bless.